bases dropped for another round of soccer down here, and it is Jon here, Jarrett there for the first, say, 40 minutes or so. Then Jarrett's real world stops in, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. All right, everybody, line it up. Go ahead, put your thoughts in the bin, put your thoughts in the queue. Could be at Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Could be with me at Twitter at OSG Nelson. Could be at Jarrett_Smith. Could be on the Twitch pitch. Good morning, Sean Vergara. And this is Thursday Thoughts. So it's deadline day overseas. So we'll get into that. And that'll be the source of the opening kickoff brought to us by our friends in Kickoff Coffee in very short order. So we got deadline day. We had 11 matches last night in Major League Soccer. We'll go over the standings. I know that everybody wants to talk about Atlanta and Philly since we are based here. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, line it up. Go ahead and line it up. And, I'll go part 2 with opening kickoff. So we'll go ahead and get into there because it ended up evolving into a 2-part thing. All right. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And for those of you watching on Twitch, I will pull the banner and turn the QR code so you can hit the QR code right there. Follow Kickoff Coffee at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Kickoff Coffee CO on all of those. Reminder, use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off of your coffee purchases every single time you dial up Kickoff Coffee. And remember that they take 10% and roll it over into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff. And be sure, once again, Soccer Down Here 15, 10% off of all of your purchases rolls over into the youth initiatives. And Sean, yes, that was kind of part of what I wanted to have as the opening kickoff. And to Jarrett, since today is deadline day, I feel like we should have this continual notification for all of our friends that watch us and follow along the game that we do. On a day like today, it's a follow your sources day.
It is. It is a check your sources day. It is you saw a rumor. Find out where that rumor came from. Find out if that account is verified. Check that account's history. Check that account's follower numbers. Check that account's little check mark. Make sure it's not like the little bird in the corner. There's a parody account that exists in the Braves Twitter sphere that is like a Braves on Fox or something like that, and it's just like they make up these funny random quotes that are oftentimes hilarious, and then they'll like print the screen graphic for it, and then at the bottom corner say like, so and so did not say this as far as we know, and it's usually you're like, oh damn, oh wait, that's not real, never mind. It's one of those, but check your sources today. Make sure you're not retweeting something random. Jim Bowden, MLB Insider, like 10 years ago, did that, and like he somebody made a fake rumor. He jumped on it, didn't hard retweet it, just snatched it and was like, sources are telling me that so-and-so is happening. And it wasn't true. Someone fake had made it up. And then he ended up changing his account to just the word Ralph and going full Twitter egg. Those were fun times. But check your sources today. If you see crazy stuff, it might be happening. But check and make sure it's happening before you just jump on it,
Yes.
Because for God's sakes, and for God's sakes, someone please go rescue Christian Ramirez at Aberdeen. Christian Ramirez dropped like 15 goals last year for Aberdeen. He's not in the team this year. Like, that dude hasn't even made the 18 in like the last 4 games, I think. He's not part of Jim Goodwin's plans, but he had 14 or 15 goals last year. Someone please go rescue Superman. Minnesota, go get him and bring him back. Just have him on your roster again. It'll be a good boost for the end of the season. Just somebody please go rescue the man.
Get C-Ram out of Aberdeen, please. Somebody, anybody, useful individual up top. He proved it last season. And now
Emilio, you haven't missed anything. I'm just telling people to make sure you check your sources. When you see crazy rumors, make sure it's from a legitimate source and not somebody just having a good time.
Yes.
That's pretty much it. Then Bam will get to everything.
Yes,
Chicharito flopping last night is one of my favorite things I've ever seen. Chicharito looked like someone like just I don't know, man. It was like it's like he was possessed for a moment. That was amazing. It just sitting there jawing to Michael Bradley. Someone else comes up and touches him,
I think it was
and then
Rich Larea, yeah.
he just starts flailing
Ah!
like demons have surrounded his bedside at 3 a.m. That
Oh,
was outstanding.
well, sometimes I think it was Richie Larea, and I'm fairly safe to say that Richie Larea does that to folks. But yeah, we'll get into that, and we might have a special guest dropping in at 9:30 ish because this particular individual is focused on college football. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that if this individual pops up. But yeah, this is going to be a bit of a power hour ish. And we'll go past, obviously, the top of the hour because, I have a promo to read and things like that.
Bam, this is a pro Aussie Rules show. This is a pro Aussie Rules environment. You are always welcome to discuss Aussie Rules here. It is for the longest time. I think Spencer Hall wrote the article on it back in his SB Nation days. The American college football journalist, if you want to call him that. He's kind of the modern voice of college football, but journalist is kind of a weird word to use for him.
He is a
kind of more than that. He's kind of encompassed modern college football coverage. But he wrote one a couple of years ago that hit a lot of us in the heart because it was like, who here hasn't stayed up till 2 a.m. to watch on Fox Sports 2 a random AFL game and wondered what in the actual hell was going on and why this was not on primetime more often? Because it's outstanding.
Absolutely. And for the record, I'm one of those kids that watched it when it was on ESPN. You have the grand final, all of the pomp and circumstance, all the pageantry, and all of those kinds of things. And so this is what happens when you have your emails up. But when you're looking at when you're looking at the AFL, I mean, for me, it was Lethal Lee Matthews, and Carlton and Essendon and Collingwood and all those kinds of things. So no, I had a very, very early exposure to the AFL and the grand final. And so, yes, I'm that guy that watches it on FS2, considering that the playoffs are now happening, and BAM has been great about giving us the public service about making sure that we know when the playoffs are. And it's traditionally in overnight hours. So I end up having to go to the Twitter account or the Instagram account to watch the highlights of apparently a very, very back and forth game that went down to the wire in the fourth quarter. So, yes, if you're up and you're an insomniac, please watch the playoffs of the AFL. But yeah, so that's the first part of the opening kickoff. Second was a picture that popped up on our normal circuit for social media. And we found out, and I don't know, this individual has not popped up into the Twitch pitch yet this morning, but Rich Ransom does actually exist. There was a picture with Jason and Rich after the match last night in Chester, Pennsylvania. So Rich Ransom is actually an individual that is not Jarrett. How did you phrase it with Rich?
I thought it was an AI algorithm.
Right. Yeah. So that apparently is not the case unless the individual who is in charge of AI in Chester, Pennsylvania, conjured up a Rich Ransom-like Rich Ransom, because there is a picture now of Jason and Rich after the match last night. So good to see that Rich and Jason were able to kind of, it's like we know Rich in conversation. We know Rich in conversation, and now we know Rich in two dimensions. Rich Ransom does exactly exist, and that was good to see. Good to see Rich and Jason hook up last night and have the picture taken up there in Chester, Pennsylvania. That's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com on the web. Once again, I will reach over my right-hand shoulder. There's your QR code. Let me get my index finger out of the way. So QR code right there for those of you watching on Twitch. Soccer Down Here 15, use that code, get 15% off of your coffee, which has been drawing raves across the board, especially the darker roasted material. So, yes, if you have any hints, any ideas, any help when it comes to Kickoff Coffee, which one you like the best, let everybody know and why in the timeline. So Kickoff Coffee CO on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. once again, Soccer Down Here 15. Use the code, get 15% off your coffee. 10% of the proceeds end up being rolled over into the youth game and youth initiatives through Kickoff Coffee. Once again, Kickoff Coffee, CO, Kickoff Coffee, great friends of us here at Soccer Down Here. Like I said, I was trying to figure out kind of the layout this morning, and I just figured I would just go ahead and let everybody, put their thoughts out there, and we'll go from there. And so I guess, Jarrett, what I'll do is I will start with Bams. Bam said he watched the first half of the Atlanta game, and you played quite well. What happened? ?
Yeah, the first half went pretty well overall. Very much not perfect because you have the goal that Rocco gives up. That Rocco had 2 goals in this game that he can't give up. When you're a struggling team, you need your goalkeeper to not give up soft goals.
Yep.
And you gave up the second one soft too because it's, you just didn't react quickly enough. It's like you flooded the middle of the box expecting to be able to clear that ball, and then you weren't able to do so, and it squirts out the back, and then you didn't react quickly enough to close it down. Sosa slides, it deflects off. I actually wonder if Rocco kind of had it measured before it takes that deflection, but you put yourself in that bad situation because you didn't react quickly enough on that ball that squirts out the backside. You didn't have anyone there. But Rocco's first one, he's got to do better on. Like, it looks like it goes off of his fingers, and then bam.
I thought he might have been screened a little bit in reaction.
He's still got enough of it for me. Well, going back and look at it, he got enough of that. He's got to make that save. Whether he was screened or not, that remains. That he may have been. Yeah. He's got to make that save. I said, when you're struggling and you desperately need something like that, you cannot have somebody giving up soft goals. That's just not something that can happen. And then, second half, Philly starts to wear you down. Then you get a ball in the box in the air. Rocco reacts super late, tries to come out and punch it, ends up falcon punching one of the Philadelphia players in the head, and the ball. And the referee correctly plays advantage because it lands at the foot of Gazdag, I think, and Gazdag just taps it in because there's no goalie there at that point. But Rocco's way late getting out there. No clue why he went in the first place. But what you're left with is 2 very bad mistakes that put you in deep. And then, the fourth goal, at the fourth goal, I didn't really care about at that point because the third goal is going in, you're getting ready to make attacking subs because you have to go for it. You'd have to get something out of this game. So if you lose 3-1 to 4-1, it doesn't really matter at that point because anything you can do to try and drag it back to 2-2 is what you're going to try and do. And if you lose 3-1 or 4-1, okay, whatever. Because you got to get something out of it. But you give up that goal, then by the end of the game, everybody's tired. Both teams are frustrated. Both teams are Philadelphia's trying to see it out. Atlanta's trying to see it out. And then you get, a ball that scrambles in the box in classic Philadelphia style where, they're able to put guys in the box and ball falls and ball ends up in the back of the net. And it's a career first goal from Philadelphia's academy players.
Yep. Nathan Harrell.
Great to see the kid. I don't care what team he plays. Then that's a moment to enjoy for him, and I hope he thoroughly enjoyed that moment.
Yeah. There were obviously another couple of elements early, and
that's what I got.
Yeah, no, I just what I will also get into is, and it's also a point that Bam made this morning out of the blocks. He says Pro needs to get into the bin, and I think that at moments last night, I think that Zapala, I think he was. I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word by the moment. But I think that he allowed the moment to take care of him as opposed to him taking care of the moments around him when it came to having center ref. Because I will maintain that Bedoya rocking And this was a point that was even made in the commentary by Nate McCady and Mo Adu, that Bedoya's early contact on Luis Arujo, it was toe of the boot, basically right to the chin, and they come back afterwards, and you see cleat marks on what looked like cleat marks on Luis's chin. That you had the early contact with Andre Blake and Luis Arujo, and you had these early moments.
Yes, I got food.
And it was, it was you had these early moments with officiating, and I think that at times I think that Zapala let Philadelphia dictate what he was calling as opposed to the other way around, instead of him taking control of the match.
Here's the thing, though. He's not the reason they lost. They lost
No,
because they made mistakes.
No.
They made that team made. Yeah, but then Philadelphia's going to force that issue, though. That's not what Philly is. They play a very physical brand. They're going to force you to make those calls, like we talked about yesterday, or like I said yesterday with Atlanta United in 2018. LAFC's done this in the past. When you force the issue, whether offensively or defensively or physically, you're putting the official on the spot to make calls. And did. And I thought a lot of it he handled pretty well. Atlanta just didn't execute, whether it's not closing guys down on the ball that trickles out the backside for the second goal, whether it's Rocco making mistakes, whether it's guys just being tired at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a young ref who, there's a couple in there that are interesting. The kick from Bedoya is weird because I thought he caught him in the chin. The center ref, I'm guessing it was his AR or the VAR who mentioned it, because Jonathan Tannenwald, who is a must follow,
yes,
from the Philadelphia Inquirer, also the Equalizer, covering the women's game. He, I think, was the designated pool reporter, and they got a quote about it from the officials after the game, and they said it was a boot to the chest. The angle is so weird. Also, the center ref is standing behind the play.
Yeah.
I don't know how he would have seen if it was chest or face. I'm guessing the AR saw, or VAR looked at it and said, no, he got him in the chest. Let's move on. And VAR may have had a different look than we had. I don't know. No, the officiating wasn't why Atlanta lost. I thought they handled that part. They handled that part of it well for the first half. They fought pretty well in the first half. Gutman's able to go get your goal. You responded well after giving up a really soft goal, and then you give up one right before the break, and that's the gut punch. I think if you go into halftime 1-1, you're in a lot better shape in the second half instead of having to chase, which is right where Philadelphia wants you. They want you in that rabbit snare.
Yes. First half numbers, and once again, reminder that Philadelphia pretty much thinks the ball has cooties, and they really don't want any kind of possession. They want to press, create short fields, create transition opportunities, and be clinical in their finishing. And so, literally, if you look at probably the starts of possessions off turnovers, which led to goals, it was not stuff where there was any kind of a buildup. Possession for Atlanta United first half, 56%, 11-8 on shots, 5-3 shots on target. And so then it was 6 corners for Atlanta in the first 45. You also had 7 shots inside the 18, 4 outside. Atlanta 80% passing and accuracy numbers, 78% for Philly. 21 long balls compared to 3. Once again, that's not Philly's DNA. And Philly had 3 crosses to 1. Atlanta United was better on the dribble, successful on 6 times more than 2, and were better in the air with your duels, winning 27 of 49. So that's just under 54% of the duels in the first half, and had 9 tackles to 3. Philly did have 6 interceptions. Teams were paired with 6 clearances apiece. In the second 45, obviously, when game state changes, Philadelphia still only had 44% possession, but they were all over the place.
I'm amazed they had that much. They don't want the ball at that point. They want it. No. They're fine with Atlanta they're fine with anyone, not just Atlanta. They got the lead like that. They're fine with anybody taking the ball and wait for you to make a mistake, and they're going to hit you with a long ball and kind of muck it up in the box and see what falls. And they've got. I tell you what Philly does so well, man, is they are clinical as hell. They're not always going to get a ton of chances in the box. Go see them early in the season where they really were struggling to score goals. But man, when they get their chances, they put it on frame.
Yep. And that's the key in all of this. Where Philadelphia is concerned, they don't build up. They frustrate the ever-loving hell out of you. And looking at the Atlanta United fan timelines last night and this morning, apparently Philadelphia has now rocketed to the top of the charts as to the number one team to dislike in the Eastern Conference and probably in all of Major League Soccer. But this is who Philadelphia is. Philadelphia makes a point to press you, to frustrate you, to have the dichotomy that they are, where they want to be as physical as possible defensively, but then in offense, see Flock Kamaleon, et cetera, Julian Carranza, Michael Ura, where you have the slightest amount of contact and they are told to go down and try to draw fouls. And if you have an official that looks at these kinds of things and sits there and sees a foul happening, then Philadelphia is getting to you the way that they want to get to you. There were the other moment that is in the top of mind right now is Gonzalo Pineda's yellow card versus Jim Curtin not getting a yellow card. Then once again, this goes into officiating and game state and recognizing where you are and all these kinds of things. As you said, Jarrett, for those of us that had Gonzalo Pineda getting the first yellow of the evening.
Go collect your winnings. If you haven't yet, that's on you.
Yes, go collect your winnings. And then in the second half, and let me, as I always, I have my notes. And
low key, my red card of the game was I now told Sam Jones this. My red card pick was actually Rob Valentino, because at that point you got the assistant coach who's there like to do quasi get back coach energy. Yeah. And you can tell your assistant, hey, go yell at that official and get sent off for me so I don't have to. Because that's you'll see that happen sometimes, especially in lower level games. Like you'll have your assistant coach like, hey, I need you to go chew that. Hey, go chew that guy out. They might give you a red. Don't worry about it. We got you covered.
All right.
I thought Rob Valentino was going to be that guy. I was disappointed.
I know. All right. So three-way dance, Jarrett. Guess who's here? This guy.
I feel like we should be playing Country Roads right now.
Bart Keeler hanging out with us on a Thursday.
Good morning from Pittsburgh, everyone. Good morning.
So,
have you had your shots? You were in Pittsburgh.
There you go.
There was coffee this morning. The coffee was not just coffee. So we're off to a rip-roaring start this morning here in the Steel City. Ready for some backyard brawl action. College football is officially back because what was played last weekend cannot be considered college football, and you cannot consider it to be otherwise.
I mean, to be fair, we had the MEAC SWAC Challenge. That was pretty good.
Okay, that's college football. You're correct.
Alabama State and Howard, they stayed till 1 o'clock in the morning to listen to the bands and watch each other. Now, if you're describing what happened in Ireland, then yes. By the way, those MEAC SWAC games are great because every year I do one, there's at least one person who is there working who has never seen an HBCU game before, and they don't know what they're getting into.
Oh, see, that's something they have to fix. So talk amongst yourselves for another question while I add Bart to the Twitter timeline.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I figure we can play Country Roads for you next time you come in.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully we hear it tonight at the end of the game. That's my hope. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of faith, to be quite honest, but oh well.
That's fine. We'll just go back to well, you know what? We'll get a time machine for you. We'll bring back Pat White and Steve Slayton and Noel Devine and bring all that back.
I love it. Man, that was a cheat code on NCAA. So
that was a cheat code on NCAA.
It was.
So quick thoughts from you, Bart, about the game last night, because I saw your comments and we discussed Falcon punching, the goalkeeper Falcon punching, attacking.
Yeah. Well, I still think that anyone who's going to try to put any blame on a kid who's 20 years old, who was signed as an emergency signing and wasn't even signed to be the starter as your goalkeeper, but somehow has managed to. And, I don't think there's any real productivity by trying to put any blame on Rocco Rios Novo. We know what he is. He's going to be a pretty decent goalkeeper, but he's 20 and goalkeepers take forever. to get to that point. Not everyone can be Gaga Slonina, who, by the way, still needs to improve a lot. So I think we're focusing on the wrong things when you focus on Rocco. I think that, the problem that you have with this is you have a defensive back, whatever, 3 or 4, and a midfield who are quite good at giving up scoring opportunities. And so when you have a goalkeeper who's a below average shot stopper, that's not a good recipe for keeping teams under 2-3 goals a game. And that's been a common theme throughout this entire season for Atlanta United. And it's just going to continue until actual holes are plugged. That it's not going to happen until the offseason, and it might not even happen this offseason because in MLS, roster turnover is limited. And that's the struggle that whatever this incoming president is going to have, because he's going to have to figure out a way to find a strategy for spending that matches what this club wants to do, but also what makes sense to win in MLS. And, right now you just have to accept the fact that this team is going to give up a lot of goals.
Well, and Bart, then let me posit this to the floor, that with a lack of continuity because of injuries, you're still trying to figure out relationships and who can fit where. And yes, I know that you have Monday through Friday in trying to figure out, how the other halves are going to situations. But at the same time, I would posit that part of this is game state versus Monday through Friday is an entirely different animal when you have all of these injuries and you're trying to bring in players like, Juanjo Purata. And I know that we're all still waiting for the first moment of Air Force Juan to make the air. But when you lose Andrew Gutman and you have to start Caleb Wiley, although the confidence has been there with Gonzalo Pineda, when you lose Ronald Hernandez on the right-hand side, when you lose Brooks Lennon on the right-hand side and you have to bring in Aiden McFadden, I would love to know, and I'm going to have to probably research this, how many different combinations we've had this year at the back because of injuries, promotions, etc. When you lose Miles with the injury that you did, then that upsets the apple cart and you're still trying to figure out how to make applesauce out of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think injuries have played a big part in this season. It's the reason we're in the position we are right now, but I don't think it's the reason that we're still underperforming through August and now basically through September. I think that you can absolutely point to the Miles Robinson and Brad Guzan injuries as being, and Ozzy as being the reason why we have not had a whole lot of defensive continuity, but also Rocco and Franco have been playing together for a while. Purata has been in the team for a while. Injuries are one thing. We can talk about that because you can't talk about this season without acknowledging the injuries that this team has had. But at some point, players have to play. And, I think the problems we're having is this back line, whoever is in it, still is very disorganized, very easy and susceptible to any sort of attacking threat that comes from more than just one person, and even sometimes one person. So I do have to look at the individuals and say, why are you making these individual errors? Then you have to look at the system and say, why are we allowing these same types of lapses? We continue to give up goals on set pieces. Last night, homeboy he could have had a Philly cheesesteak in his hand, taken a walk down the street, and still scored, being unmarked. So these are systemic issues that I do look at the coaching staff and go, I don't care who's on the field. They should still know their responsibility if you're coaching them correctly. It's not so much of, Franco stepped and I didn't recover. We've seen that a lot this year, which is going to happen when you have guys who aren't quite used. Yeah.
Possibly the offseason about if you're making moves too.
Right. Yeah. And that's true. But there's just general, where do you need to be on the field at any given time, does seem to be lost on these guys a lot of times, or at least they lose their spot a lot. And that's been my biggest concern, is just how easily we become stretched or disorganized as a defensive unit. And granted, that it does come back to the fact that you've had injuries and you have guys who aren't necessarily leaders on the team that are trying to lead the team. And it comes down to the fact that you have a guy, and again, I'm not blaming him, but a 20-year-old fourth string emergency signed goalkeeper who may not have the same confidence in his own voice to demand better from his defenders in front of him.
And I think that that is something that once again Rocco is going to have to learn, is being confident. And this is
he will, but he's 20.
Yeah, and legitimately this is OJT. This is on the job training for a lot of these guys. And with Brad, we know Bart, when you are watching a game, are you in the supporter section?
No, well, it depends. So some games I'm in the supporter section, but my season tickets are in 118, so the opposite end of the supporter section. So I still have that view.
Okay, so regardless of where Brad is, as an example, regardless of where you are, you can hear Brad Gazan probably on a good day, yeah?
You can hear and see him more than anything. He's definitely, you can see that he's talking, communicating.
He is a very
gesticulating.
Loud human being.
Yeah.
He is an incredibly loud human being.
Yeah.
He is a human megaphone.
Yes. Yes. It's hard to not see or hear him.
Right. And so, when you have someone like a Rocco Rios Novo who isn't quite as projected or projective with his voice and his persona, once again, it's something that he has to learn. Yes, you're 20 and coming into this whole thing, but unfortunately, it is on the job training for Rocco in trying to form this persona of, perhaps being more forceful, loud, whatever adjective you want to use here. But unfortunately, it is in the situation that it's in this season.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that I want people to understand is Rocco could be a very good goalkeeper. Again, very few goalkeepers at his age are at the level where they are a first team, best goalkeeper, number one goalkeeper on their team, top goalkeeper in a league type situation, right? Which is what you would need from an Atlanta United keeper this year to cover for the defensive lapses we've had, right? You would need a goalkeeper like Blake or Johnson or Room who are able to just pull saves out of nowhere and cover the whole goal, it seems like, without too much effort.
Mm-hmm.
Rocco's not that. Again, I'm going to go back because he is 20 years old. Goalkeepers very seldomly have figured everything out. And as I think that he has improved a lot in a lot of areas. He definitely needs to learn to command his box better, but he's done so much better with actually holding on to shots, holding on to crosses when he does come to get them. These are positives, but yes, it's on the job training, and it's something that as a goalkeeper you would rather be learning in training, but it's also something that for Rocco, we're not used to seeing a dude play like this for a senior team. He would be the guy who should be playing on the twos or would be playing for a reserves team and getting that training there, not starting. I don't even know how many matches he started now. 12? He started the majority of our matches as a goalkeeper this year, so it's an unfortunate situation for him because he's not able to grow at the timeline and the rate that most goalkeepers would get to grow.
When you and Jarrett's with us for another 6 minutes, so I'm going to save my weekly referee discussion with you until
wonderful
Jarrett exits. Yeah, well, I mean, because there are folks in the Twitch pitch this morning, and I don't know if either of you have been able to catch it, just with stuff with Chicharito and stuff with Lucas Zapala, with activity with what we've seen there. But Bart, when we look at I guess the 30,000 foot view outside of keeper and defense from last night, what else sticks in your mind from the trip to Chester?
Philadelphia is a damn good soccer team.
That's one of them, yeah.
I think that's the other thing is I don't know what you wanted this team to do. We held Philly to 3 goals. That feels like an accomplishment.
And
4.
Oh, sorry, 4 goals. Sorry, my bad.
I mean, and I will say that
it still sounds like an accomplishment.
I really didn't care about the last one because you were pressing so far forward, and you were at that point. You were like, I don't care. Like I said before you jumped on, like you're making changes right before the 3rd goal that are saying we're either going to draw this game or we might give up a couple more because we have to go for it and you have to get something out of it. How many goals you give up doesn't really matter if you can't create them.
Well, and Jarrett, I think you're right in that a draw against this team really wouldn't have done much for anything. It would have been nice to have a point, don't get me wrong, but
you had to go try and take this to them.
And we did. I thought for the most part we looked pretty okay.
Yeah, first
I'm not saying we were great. We looked,
like
yeah.
The third goal just kind of broke them.
Yeah.
And up until then, I think if you don't give up the goal right before halftime, where nobody closes down the backside off the corner kick that squirts through, I think if you don't give up that goal, the second half is interesting because Philadelphia doesn't get to go into the break with a halftime lead. They don't get to basically set themselves up to play 45 minutes with a lead where they're really comfortable and really effective at doing so. And instead, then you're in a situation where you're chasing them again after you chased them for a bit and equalized on them and had some decent moments. Caleb Wiley continues to be Caleb Wiley and be just stupid good for a kid. And Matt Doyle posted the clip of it last night about Andrew Gutman, and I'm going to keep screaming about it because this looks like what Scotland could be if they would play in the 21st century, where you have two really good left backs / left wing backs, and you're getting them on the field at the same time, playing one at the wing back position and one as a left center back that gets forward and disrupts the defense, and then you can create those overloads on the left side.
Well, let's worry about getting Scotland into like the 1990s before we just have that discussion. But
you're right, baby steps. I should know better.
But no, I mean, I think you're right though. That's the thing that like there are positives within this team, right? There's things that you can look at and say, okay, how do we replicate this going forward? And honestly, that's what the rest of the season is individual tryouts to see who is worth. I hate to say it, worth keeping on this team, who's worth continuing to find out how they fit into the team. Because every one of these players is going to has to know that, you know, not making the playoffs means that their contract is going to be scrutinized, and you got to be playing up to your worth, you know.
Yep. I found the numbers, Bart, really quickly. Rocco has played in 15 matches and has a save percentage, a pass percentage of 87.3. But let me check on actual goalkeeping numbers. But yeah, 15 matches, 1,350 played. Let's see if I have anything resembling statistics. I'm sitting here scanning as quickly as humanly possible, trying to figure out if I can come up with numbers.
I don't have the numbers in front of me either, but Jarrett, you'll know better. Like, I don't even think he got those numbers when he was playing for the Twos.
No.
Yeah, so
2 clean sheets, save percentage of 60.6. So that's
the Twos are an entirely different conversation because I have this conversation literally every week when people ask me how good Garces can be if he's playing for if he's playing for the Twos and they're leading the world in goals surrendered. Like, well, yes, because they too have had a makeshift bit of defensive work, and on top of that, the way they play leaves their 17-year-old, 18-year-old center backs on an island a lot.
Jarrett, you turn into a pumpkin, right?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, we will see you Friday, I think. Well,
whip around.
Yes, whip around for the weekend whip around. So, Jarrett.
Enjoy, Jarrett.
Jarrett is out the door, and so this is where the fun continues with Bart Keeler till do I have you to the top of the hour?
Till the top of the hour, yep.
All right. So, question from Turner Kirby on the Twitch pitch. And by the way, Soccer for US Pod. And but John Brooks has apparently been Benfica. Did I see that this morning?
That's been what's been reported, yeah.
So John Brooks to Benfica. So perhaps regular playing time for John Brooks. Turner Kirby asks, who is Bart's must keep and would keep on the squad, excluding injuries and homegrown?
Oh Lord. I don't want to have too many roster evaluations until the end of the season, because I think that we need to take a whole look at everything. But right now, I don't want to say there's specific names, but let me just put it to you this way. I think that you have several center backs, and you're only keeping one of the big name dudes, right? I think you're only keeping one of Franco or Parata. I think you're going to have to evaluate if you're only going to keep one of, maybe two of Hindman, Rossetto, and Moreno. I think you're only keeping two of those guys. I think you keep Sejdic just because of his contract. Anyone else? I mean, it depends on how this new president wants to build his roster from a salary perspective, because there's a lot of guys who are making decent money, but from a midfield and center back standpoint, those are the problems that we've had all season. So why are we going to keep the majority of those players? I don't know. I mean, that would be where I would look to say, how do we improve those positions? And the only way you're improving these positions is by cutting some of the dead weight. And I don't see you keeping Franco and Peralta. I don't think you see you keeping, Rossetto, Moreno, Hindman. You're not just keeping all these guys. You're going to have to make decisions. Personally, I would cut Moreno because I don't think he's been valuable enough based on the salary that he's making. And I know it's not as big as it was when we signed him, but remember, we did sign him as a designated player. We have five guys that we've signed as designated players. Two of them aren't designated players anymore. And my question would be, are those guys even playing up to the value of their contract right now? I don't think Moreno is, and that's backed up by the fact that he hasn't been starting recently. Especially looking at the way that this team plays through the middle, I don't think Moreno really fits that. And I'll still say this: I think he's the slowest professional soccer player in the world, and that doesn't really fit with MLS.
Michael Head has also added the ideas of settling the Eric Lopez and Barco loans, and whether or not Bonfield and River are going to pick up those two players.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to eat it a little bit on Barco. I think you have to understand that you're probably not going to get back the money you paid, but you could probably sell him for a decent chunk of change to somewhere. Lopez, that might be your off-season buyout. I don't know who wants him. He hasn't been playing. He clearly isn't as good as we thought he was even going to kind of be. And that's just another example of I think needless spending by Carlos Bocanegra. And that's been my issue with the strategy of let's just throw a bunch of money around because it makes headlines. Well, it kind of puts you into these positions where you want so much money for a player who's clearly just not worth it. But with Barco, I mean, honestly, I've played around with that in my head of the idea of what if we can't get rid of Barco and he just comes back, and now we've got Barco, Amada, and those are some guys you have going forward. I mean, is that the worst thing ever? I don't know. They play two similar positions, but why not? That could be fun. And not winning a bunch of games, but it'll certainly be a lot of fun. But I think both of those guys are probably going to be gone for sure next year.
All right, so let me ask you this: when it comes to the idea of spending money in Major League Soccer, I know that there are different ways of going about building a franchise, and Atlanta United has not been shy about bringing in international talent that is on its way up and using Atlanta United as a point of access to the European theater or back to South America for larger what's the word I'm looking for larger transfer fees. I see nothing wrong with investing the way that they do in combination with building through the academy. And to be to use the Alexi Lawless term, to be a super club, I think that to do so as quickly as they did, you had to do it that way while you were building from the academy side of things. And so it is a having to work both sides of the street here and trying to be successful and be that player on the international stage. I think it's
I think MLS gives you 6 spots that you can really play with when it comes to those big international signings, right? You have 3 designated players.
Problem too. Yeah, that's another problem too.
You have 6 international or designated players. You have hopefully 3 U22 slots, and I would say that spending money on those types of players is fine. Let's go do that, because those are the big tickets that you're trying to turn into big gains. But I think where our problem is that we keep signing guys who are international players, right? Which you have a limited number of, on high value and high transfer fee deals. When I think we need to look at how can we utilize the existing MLS market a little bit better, be it free agency, be it interleague transfers. And I would like to see us looking more at that level to find the sure-footed center back. I know people have thoughts about him, but I personally think Brooks Lennon is a great example of a dude who's giving you a lot of value or a lot of production at a right back position, who doesn't take up an international roster spot, is not above a TAM level player, and came from MLS. And I think Ozzy Alonso was another guy who probably would have filled that. But I would rather us start looking more at guys like that, because we've seen them come into this team specifically in the past and perform well. I mean, you look at a guy like Justin Merrim, who came to Atlanta and performed incredibly well. Well, that's an MLS veteran, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little bit of Bruce Arena in to fill a more well-rounded roster, because you can't have a bunch of all U25 guys who are trying to get off to Europe. You just can't. And so I think you need to find MLS veterans to fill the holes of the superstar talent you're bringing from Latin America, and the superstar talent hopefully you're developing from your academy, and using MLS players to kind of fill those gaps instead of going to Brazil to sign a TAM level player who clearly hasn't really worked in MLS.
When it comes to the salary cap, I would loosen it, and I would also add a DP, because there are teams that you see here in the league that want to invest the way that Atlanta United does. And I think that it hamstrings this new generation of franchise and these new generations of owners to get the league to where it wants to be or where it should be, especially with the World Cup coming in a couple of years.
Yeah, I would rather them loosen. I mean, I know we kind of gotten rid of TAM, basically. That's the goal. So we just have GAM, which, whatever, we're still using acronyms for that. I would rather them get rid of those acronyms, honestly, and just say, use that money to increase the salary cap. And say, okay, you have this much money, but anyone over X amount counts as a designated player, right? Like, we have those rules already. I would rather them have fewer roster designations, so that teams can just spend money how they choose to spend money, and allowing them to use the money they have to fill in those roster spots between homegrown or supplemental players and the designated players.
Also,
but I'm with you. We need to have more salary.
Okay. Let's see. Since I have you for 7 minutes before you continue your backyard brawl celebrations,
we're on our way to Luca's Diner. Did I get that right? DeLuca's Diner. Yeah, DeLuca's Diner here in Pittsburgh. We just passed PNC Park, and I gotta say, if you ever get a chance to go to PNC Park, try to not watch the Pirates, but go there.
Yes, exactly. That's true. What's the number right now? What are the odds looking like in this particular game?
We're a 6.5 dog here at Acrisure Stadium, not Heinz Field, which is
yes,
sacrilegious in my opinion.
Actually, the line has gone up to 7.5. So you might be able to get some stuff working there. It's 7.5 and basically like a -102 on the money line. So it looks like you're in pretty decent shape. But I
feel like the over/under still puts it under like 30 points apiece, though, right? That's the last I saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So Rich is in this morning, and here's what Rich wanted. He says, "I wanted Atlanta United to play rough against the Union and see how the Union play against a consistently pressuring team."
Yeah, K71 KWB.
Wanted us to play rough. Who the hell's going to play rough on this team?
Dom Dwyer.
Yeah, this team isn't built for that. You can't just be like, oh, let's play rough. We don't have the players for that. What are you going to have Alan Franco go try to rough someone up? Going to have Dom Dwyer? I mean, Dom Dwyer, I've said this many times, he only has 30 minutes in him. After that, no one can control the chaos that's going to come with Dom Dwyer after 30 minutes. I get the point, but again, this team is built in a way to play a certain way, and it's not going to change overnight. I mean, you can't do that. There could have been ways. I think I would have preferred us to be a little bit more or a bit less possession-minded. I think that's something that I expected Pineda to have instilled on this team. I mean, our last 2 wins have come with less than 60% possession. Yeah. But there could have been some stylistic changes. I don't know if you're going to somehow just be this rough and tumble. We're going to go out there and throw some elbows team. I mean, that's not who we are.
I know that I have zero basis in fact in this at all whatsoever, but I think that what if somebody plays like Rocky 2, where Rocky fights And then with like 10 minutes to go, the manager goes, now,
Yeah.
like Mickey does. One of those kinds of
Yeah.
things. Couple of other things before you go, and thank you for joining us before you go to DeLuca's. Last night, if you were a center ref and you saw what Chicharito did against Toronto?
Yeah, well, I think the thing now is we have the benefit of VAR, so I would have probably that would have been my first call. It's like I'm going to make my decision on the field, but I'm going to VAR to check what happened, and it probably was a red card. So it's just I thought we should have had a red card in our game too. So it is what it is.
Which now that's my follow up. So Gonzalo Pineda gets a yellow for consistent conversations. Jim Curtin takes a ball away from Caleb Wiley as he's about to put in. What is that?
Yeah, the referee last night, if I'm not mistaken, was a mostly USL referee, and he kind of referees like that. Come on here. It was very like he wasn't not making the call. It was how does the call? What's my next step? What's the next escalation? And he seemed very conflict avoidant last night, which I get. Like you're a newer referee, you're a little bit less experienced referee, and you're not as confident to look at a guy like Jim Curtin. Like you're getting a yellow card for that. But Pineda, you feel a little bit more confident giving a yellow card or giving some sort of misconduct to a guy who's continually talking to you and yapping at you. Those things you have a little bit more confidence in giving a yellow card to because you're just like personally you're fed up with it. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to give something to Pineda for that, then what Jim Curtin did was at least it probably could have given him a yellow card. I mean, you can give a coach a yellow card. It's fine. You can be like, hey, don't do that again. It's a very simple. It's the reason why they instilled this part of the law of the game is that you can give coaches visual and meaningful warnings to not do stuff, not just a verbal warning like we had to do.
Colonel, he is heading to breakfast in Pittsburgh. That's why you hear everything going on. Okay, so Zapala.
Yeah, sorry.
19 games. He has awarded 473 fouls. So that's basically like low 20s. Averages about 5 yellows a match, and has only given a handful of reds. Last question before you go from Turner. It's a USM&T question. Will TT ever play CP10 in position?
What was the question?
Will TT ever play CP10?
Thomas Tuchel play Christian Pulisic? No. Stop expecting Thomas Tuchel to do things that you want Thomas Tuchel to do. Like that man is not here for making any person happy, including himself. This is his entire life thing. Apparently, is just constant gloom and sourness. And it's just I think. It really bothers me because I think Pulisic is at a good, like the club situation itself is pretty okay, right? Comparing him to some other guys in the U.S. men's national team who definitely need moves. But he's just with a manager who doesn't seem to want to do anything for this kid. And that's really sad. But where else was he going to go?
Yeah.
And still be at a decent club, and that's concerning. But no, I don't think you don't expect Thomas Tuchel to play Christian Pulisic actually in his preferred position or anything like that. It's just not going to happen. Stop expecting Thomas Tuchel to make anyone happy.
All right, go enjoy DeLuca's in the backyard brawl. Thanks for hanging out.
All right, thanks, John. Y'all have a great one. Hopefully, you're all watching me be happy tonight. And if I'm not happy tonight, don't follow my Twitter. Thank you. Y'all have a great one.
All right, thanks, Bart. Bartimus Prime 19 on the Twitters, and that is what happens when you're finding somebody who is on his way to breakfast in Pittsburgh as he's getting ready for the backyard brawl. Backyard noise, backyard brawl. That's what we had. So it's time to cut a promo now that we're at the top of the hour. For our friends over my left shoulder, for those of you watching on Twitch, Rotor-Free Clean Fresh Air, one place you need to go. It is a Lemonize service, deodorizing in close spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. And realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that. It is a very green way of getting rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or in the cabinet, because when you reach under the sink or into the cabinet and spray that masking agent into the air, that's why they call it a masking agent, because that's all you're doing. You're masking the odor. You're not attacking it all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Eliminize do with their proven scientific formula. It is a very, very easy pricing-wise, cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, and offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go. It's their website, eliminize.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from to attack the issues that you may have. So your full homework assignment, as I grab my pen, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Now, let me go through the Twitch pitch and also go through the results of last night. We'll go through the standings really quickly, get you ready for your viewing habits for today. Very, very busy show on a Reaction Thursday for your Thursday thoughts. Let's see. Michael Head, I know you've got a lot of comments in, and we'll get to them as I continue to scroll. Turner's ready to lock in Philly winning the Cup prediction. He's ready to lock in that prediction. In fact, as I said on Discord, have more faith in an Atlanta Cup run than an LAFC Cup run. And just as a way of promoting stuff later this afternoon, around dinner time, we'll catch up with Nico Moreno from Pulso Sports and catch up with him about what happened last night, where Seattle had a lead, then lost the lead and lost a game in Orlando. And so we'll catch up with Nico. We'll catch up with him about everything going on in the West. Houston with a big win last night against LAFC. And I'm sure that has kind of raised the antenna up a little bit on LAFC and what it looks like for them. Chiellini goes, I think, 76 minutes, but it does not look like that this was one of the better transactions to help you out at the back. And I will still maintain that LAFC, to me anyway, looks like a group that wants to do transactions for the sake of transactions. Hey, look what we can do. And you've probably taken a hit in your chemistry and all of your makeup, and you're losing games to Houston. And so I have more faith in everybody else in the West than I do in LAFC about any kind of a championship run. So right there with you, Turner. Turner, talking about Pineda being the first coach to have since Tata to have 2 full off-season windows. It'll be interesting to see him continue to build his team and hopefully some consistency in the kinds of players that we scout, and will lead to more cohesion. And there was a question last night when you had Tata Martino and Mexico and Paraguay. Let me see if I can find the quote really quickly. Asked about Atlanta United. Here's what Tata said last night at Mercedes-Benz. Atlanta has a great coach and a great staff. I met with them for 4 hours over the weekend. I honestly wish them the best. Mexico, in Gonzalo, Pineda, and in that staff have a bright future. They have other aspirations, and they're coming from having worked in Seattle. They're getting acclimated to an organization that has gone through some recent inconveniences. Hopefully they can qualify for the postseason. I'm not sure if they won tonight versus Philadelphia. They lost. Well, if not this year, next year, they'll do something extraordinary. So that's from Tata Martino last night, after Tata was booed off the pitch and had stuff thrown at him and his players after the result last night at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So that's from Tata Martino as to what he thinks about what's going on with Atlanta United. South Georgia, I think Dom coming into the game. Yeah, Dom stuck up for his players and his teammates, and I thought it was really cool that you get to see that from Dom Dwyer. Keep the man around. I know that he wants to be closer to his young children, but if you can find a way to keep him around, keep him around. Trust me, great stuff. Let's see, a lot of stuff from Turner this morning. Rich's behind the goal pictures were fantastic, so I'll have to go back and look at those. But nicely done. But like I said, it was great to see how Rich and Jason were able to see each other last night. I thought, once again, that was very, very cool. And Rich, and in as much as we have these spirited discussions about Philadelphia and your particular style of play and how you basically unnerve everyone in Major League Soccer with what you do. I mean, it's great to have you here on a daily basis. Great to have the conversations that we are. Sean, can we talk about how the legend of Sorry Alex lives on? Well, let's see. Yesterday in the Premier League, hang on just a second. Was it the 97th minute where you have a goal where it just right up until the bitter end, it looked like Newcastle was going to leave Anfield with a point. Did not. You got the one match today, but Liverpool at home. So Liverpool is a minus 345. It got the Duke in the 97th minute, beating Newcastle 2-1. Since we're here, West Ham and Tottenham, a 1-1 draw. Arsenal beat Aston Villa, and probably the heat's being cranked up on Stevie G with the 2-1 win for Arsenal there. Bournemouth and Wolves, a goalless draw at a plus 227. And Manchester City over Nottingham Forest, and 6-0 at a minus 1,000. And for those of you that have in a cap fantasy league, if you have Erling Haaland, congratulations. Second consecutive hat trick. Manchester City put 6 on the board to make a statement about where they are. And obviously standings right now, Arsenal, only team after 5 that's perfect. 5 wins across the board, goal difference of plus 9. Manchester City has the draw and a goal difference of plus 14. 2 points behind. Spurs at 11 points. Brighton at 10, losing last time out. Liverpool with the win, they're now up to 5th in the standings with 8 points. Leeds is 6th. Fulham is 7th. Early surprises there. Southampton is 8th. You want to talk about a surprise. Chelsea is 9th at 7 points, having lost 2 of their last 3. Brentford and Newcastle and Manchester United are all at 6 points. Manchester United still has to play their 5th match of the season, as does Leicester, and that's later today. We'll get to the juice boxes there in just a bit. Crystal Palace is at 5 points at 13th. West Ham, after starting their season, losing their first 3, they've gotten 4 points in their last 2. They're in 14th, ahead of Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth on goal difference. Everton is 17th. And your 3 right now currently in the early relegation zone, Wolves, Villa, and Leicester. Sorry, Knicks. And so that's where the Premier League standings are. Your match today, Leicester, Manchester United, is at 3 o'clock. And remember, you've got everything picking back up on Saturday morning, bright and early. Leicester at home at King Powers, a plus 236. Manchester United is a favorite at a plus 112, and your draw is a plus 279. So, I don't know how to log into Discord, Sean. So that was why I missed those. That's why I missed those photos of Rich last night. And we talked about Rocco Michael in the first half hour. So save percentage, Michael, is at 60.6, if I have that correct. Save percentage is at a 60.6. And so that's where Rocco's numbers are this season. KFC, in terms of the game, better team won. Atlanta went for it in the first half, just couldn't keep the chassis in check going into the half. And I mean, I think that they were right there with them in the first 45. But, we mentioned what Philadelphia does. Philadelphia will frustrate you. They will wear you down. And then they are very, very clinical. They want to make sure that they don't have possession. They don't care about possession. They want to create turnovers, short fields, and be clinical in their finishing. And then when they have a lead, they will continue to do what they do. And then, as you saw late, they brought in McGlynn and Aronson with a handful of minutes to go. You got young kids in that philosophy, and they're going to run around and do what they're supposed to do. So that is the philosophy with that's the philosophy with Philadelphia, as frustrating as it is. And I know that a lot of Atlanta fans, and a lot of fans, frankly, in Major League Soccer, not fans of what they're seeing out of Philadelphia because of what they do. But once again, until they are, until they are carded stylistically, and then they are as tightly wound as they are when it comes to cards. You sit there and you see an infraction, you believe in persistent infringement, all those kinds of things. Philadelphia is going to do what Philadelphia does. Philadelphia last night gave up their 21st goal on the season. That's insane. When you have a defense like they have, and you get leads, you clamp it down, and you sit there, and it's like out the door. That's what Philadelphia does. And Atlanta United saw opportunities in the middle of the pitch. There was a lot of wide open space, considering how that 4-4-2 diamond is. That space is there to create in the middle. But once again, it's about being clinical in possession. And Atlanta United had chances, didn't close them down. We have the 2 goals that were part and parcel from Rocco Rios Nova that we've talked about this morning. And then there you go. So that's, once again, Philadelphia. I don't care about the final score. Bottom line is Philadelphia won. And going from 3 to 4 doesn't really matter at that particular point of the match. You're still chasing the game anyway. But Philadelphia is right now at the top of the East, and they will be for the foreseeable future. And, I think that the tape is out, at least on that first 45, and with a couple of past matches like the draw to Cincinnati. And the past behaviors there, you can kind of take a peek as to how things are with Major League Soccer and with what Philadelphia, and you'll look at the tapes and you'll sit there and you say, okay, here's how Philadelphia was beaten in these situations. You'll go back to the Dallas loss at 1-0. Folks will look at that one on the road. But once again, everything's going to be going through Chester right now when it comes to Philadelphia Union and how they're attacking things here in Major League Soccer. So, let's see. Turner and Kefsey going back and forth reminded me a lot of a paycheck game in college football. The overmatch teach stays in the game for the first half, but the better team pulls away late. I thought it was a little more than that. But once again, Philadelphia will frustrate you, wear you down, and then substitute fresh legs in, and they will do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So that's where it is. Let's see. The pin given to Houston was a joke if you haven't seen it. So I'll look at that one, and we'll talk about that one tomorrow, working its way through. Can be said players in Pineda too affected by officiating? This can happen. Emilio, I would disagree. I don't think that they're tied to I don't think that they're tied to the officiating. I mean, you hear the comments after the match. Yes, they have reason to be frustrated about it, but I think that they're tied into that 90 minutes of what goes on, and then they can talk about it afterward. You can talk about it afterward all you want, but I think that in that 90 minutes, especially against a team like Philadelphia, I think that once again, looking at game state, a team like Philadelphia will frustrate you more, especially if you have center refs that are not going to look at persistent infringement. They're not going to look at serious fouling. You have the 2 incidents early, those kinds of things. If you have these incidents and you have a center ref that's not going to call it a certain way and then call it differently later, I think that that's part of it also. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. But yeah, you had those moments early that should have been cards, in my opinion. Like I said, this is me talking. I thought that the contact from Burke should have been a card at the very least. I thought that the contact by Bedoya on Aruju should have been a card at the very least. But once again, you've got a team, and once again, I give them full credit for doing this. They go right up against the edge. They find out where the edge is, and they go right up against it every single time. And that's what makes them the great team that they are right now, is that they find the edge. They find what the center ref and the ARs are going to call. They go right up against that edge. They're right there every single time. They know where the edge is, and they will continue to push and push and push and push. And that's why they're successful. So, you tip your hat to Philadelphia. You understand, as frustrating as they are, you understand how they are successful. You tip your hat to them. It's like, yep, you got it again. You move on. We'll see what happens next time out. And for Atlanta, you started the night 4 points out. You finished the night 3 points out. So, once again, you got a handful of matches to go, but here's your standings in the East as we head into weekend whip around tomorrow. And we will have a show on Monday. Might be more of a power hour. Don't know, because it's a holiday, but we'll be back on Monday morning because we got to talk about Portland. Here's your standings. Philadelphia with the win. They've won 3 in a row, 4 of 5. They're at 57 points. CF Montreal with the loss last night had a 3-game win streak snap. They're at 49. Red Bulls are charging. They've won 3 of they're unbeaten in 4, won 3 of 4. They're at 47. NYC. Jarrett mentioned last night that they need to be placed in some rice or something. Yeah, they need to be unplugged and plugged back in. They've lost 4 of 5. They're down to 45 points. Orlando City is charging now. Who thought that you would say something like that? They're 3 points behind New York City. 3 points behind New York City right now after the start that NYC had. Shows you when Ronnie Dyla leaves, Tati Castellanos leaves. That's where they are. 3 points separating Orlando from NYC and 4 and 5. And that's a home playoff match right there. Columbus, with the win last night, snapped their 3-game draw streak. Right now, Columbus, 39 points. This helped Atlanta United. Because of the Inter-Miami loss, they've now lost 2 in a row. 28 matches played, same as Atlanta United. They're at 36 points. Now, the rest of the playoff, the groupings below the playoff bar. Cincinnati is drawn 3 in a row, drawn 4 of 5. They're at 35 points. The Revs drew last night. They snapped a 2-game losing streak with that draw. They're at 35 points, -3 in goal difference. They've scored the least number of goals. Cincinnati scored 45. The Revs have scored 39. Toronto, with their draw, didn't pull away. They've played one more match or two from the folks around them. They've got 5 matches to go. 34 points. Atlanta United right now, 8, 9, and 11. You got to win. You got to get 12 points probably out of the remaining 6 games that you have to get into the playoffs. 8, 9, and 11. And you are at 33 points. Charlotte has lost 4 of 5. I think that they're regressing to what we figured that they would be at 10, 2, and 16. They're at 32. Chicago with the draws at 31. DC's at 25. So looking at the playoff picture, Atlanta, 3 points out of the playoffs right now with 6 matches that they have to play. So that's where we are with the stats heading into the weekend, where you're heading to Portland. The team is staying in Philly today, staying in Philly a little bit tomorrow, then flying to Portland, and then they'll be in Portland on the weekend. We'll go over all the stats and juice boxes and everything tomorrow on the weekend whip around patent pending trademark coming. So that's where we are. Also on the board, Emilio likes Pineda, but thinks he needs to be more cognizant about what he says. We're still in a position to draw, even with the ridiculous officiating. Once again, Emilio, when we look at what coaches say, when you have what the officiating was in the first half, honestly, it should have been, it should have been. When we talked about the Aruju foul, we talked about the Blake foul, and the game state would have changed. Yes. So once again, there you go. Just understand post-game press conferences also in other sports and apply it to what we're seeing with Atlanta United. But if those moments had been called a certain way, game state would have changed and it would have been different. So that's where we are. Also on the board, KFC, given how Philly closes games, strongly questioned whether the subs were the right calls. You're trying to chase an equalizer at that point, and you're looking to try to bring in speed with Mosqueda. You're trying to bring in effort up top with Dom Dwyer. So I understood the substitutions as they were being called. So I think that was the same as playing, get guys who will run on early and try to score first. Yeah. Shooter McGavin is in this morning with the Revs. He is not happy about Gustavo Bo. Team is the worst franchise in sports. Will be the last franchise to win MLS Cup, and we are a founding franchise. Shooter went to the match after work, and he was not happy about what happened last night with the draw. And Shooter says, at least you guys, meaning Atlanta United, won a cup. My team sucks. They have 4 championships. Let's see. Shooter says they're sorrier than the Clippers. And as someone who's a Clippers fan, I know of your pain, sir. Trust me. As a Clippers fan, I know what you're talking about. I know that. Let's see what also on the board. Turner, what Bart said is true. Injuries are the reason we're in this position. A lot of the guys playing weren't signed to be starters, but there was a big but there by Bart and him saying it's not the reason we're performing bad currently. Emilio, understand Rocco is young, nothing personal, but then use the older backup and see what he brings. Not sure about the Godinho practice habits. The thing that and I'm glad that you mentioned Godinho, because I figured that was going to be a topic this morning as well. You're looking at keepers, and they're trying to be acclimated to a system. And if Raul Gudiño is still taking time to acclimate, then that's what you're looking at. Then maybe you bring up maybe, and you need that kind of experience with a guy like Raul Gudiño. But once again, it's being comfortable in the system with your feet and being that sweeper keeper that we see. So since we're not there on a daily basis, then we don't know how Gudiño is looking Monday through Friday. But right now it is Rocco, because Rocco is, with his distribution, he's doing what you're being asked of when it comes to the keepers and Atlanta United. So, like I said, that's the biggest thing for me when it comes to Gudiño. If Gudiño isn't still quite there when it comes to grasping what they're looking for, when it comes to having that keeper, then that's why Rocco is still continuing to start. Also, lots of questions in the offseason. Mikey Ambrose, only player out of contract. I think that is correct. And we talked about Lopez and Barco as well. Not looking forward to Philly coming to the Benz. And that was why, Michael, I wanted to bring up the idea of, Rocky 2. You bring in guys and you just sit there and it's like, okay, fine. We'll go nose to nose with you for 90 minutes and we'll see what happens. It's almost like challenging Philadelphia to continue to be Philadelphia after that first contact, and seeing if they are bumped off of their game, if they end up having to go against type, what happens if they give up that first goal, those kinds of things. So yeah, it will be interesting. I'm looking forward to see what happens when Philadelphia comes to the Benz. I am looking forward to that. Do we think Wiley was subbed for load or fatigue? Because I'm not impressed with Mosqueda. Once again, Mosqueda just got here, and so he's still trying to learn the system. And when you have someone that you trust on the wings, and someone who has fresh legs late, and you're trying to continue to chase goals, I think that's part of what you're looking at for a player like Mosqueda. It's the speed. It's the creativity, and we saw a moment with the creativity with Mosqueda. And once again, you're also looking at load management. So I guess it is, Wiley, it's probably a combination of a bunch of different things, but you're chasing the match. Mosqueda's got fresher legs, and he can run for days on the wing. And then, you're also looking at Portland on the weekend. So if we went choice D, all of the above, that's probably what I'm looking at for all of that. Kefsey, some of the little things Philly did were interesting. Screening our players, getting better positions on set piece, and the late game passing was killer. We got Turner's question about must keep, should keep. Rich, we talked about that. Dunga, the reason why I continue to like to have Bart on Thursdays when he can make it as our resident official is, and this goes back to the Pat Noonan discussion that he had after Hell is Real. And I think that, and it's not just something exclusive to Atlanta United, but I think it's important to the growth of the league, where you need to have officials working their way, into these situations. And I think that they just simply need to be better. And I think that there needs to be accountability from them also when you have things that are egregious, like, say, the Chicharito, the Chicharito incident against Toronto FC last night. I would like for them to be more accountable, and I would like for I'd like for VAR to be more consistent. I would like for the center refs and the ARs to be more consistent at times, because there are times when there are things that are clear and obvious, and the call is, if from everything that we get to see, it's simply incorrect. And so I think that one of the reasons for me, and I mean, like I said, it's great that you're in and we have these conversations, and that's the beauty of this back and forth on the Twitch pitch on a daily basis. I think it's important for the growth of the game. And I think we need to continue, if it's Atlanta United, if it's Toronto and LA, if it's Houston. And if you watch the end of the Houston match last night, the Houston color guy that was paired with Glenn Davis was lighting the center ref up. Had a great start, but then as things went south with LAFC in the final 15 minutes, the color commentator on the Houston Dynamo match last night was letting Conger have it. And I think that to be able to continue to have these conversations are important, because if we don't have these conversations, then it's just as it's tacitly or passively insisting that you're cool with it, and we shouldn't be. And so that's why I like to have these conversations, to continue to bring these things up, to continue to work through these. And having Bart on as our resident official gives that perspective of, okay, here's what an official thinks about other officials. And so I just think to continue to have this is important, especially as the league wants to continue to look at itself seriously and wants to be treated as that top 10 league, the top 8 league in the world. You have to improve. And if we don't talk about things that need improvement, then we're doing the league a disservice. We're doing fans a disservice. And I think that it's just something that needs to continue to be addressed. And if we address it game by game or instant by instance, then I think that once again, it's just an important talking point for me, because I think it's important for the growth of the game. So yeah, I think we should continue to bring it up, and I think that we should continue to hold pro accountable, and we should continue to hold officials accountable. But like I said, that's just me. So like I said, great to have these conversations about this kind of stuff, and we'll keep having conversations about this kind of stuff. And I'm glad that you're here in the Twitch pitch. And Michael, don't really see Atlanta's model of player development is working. In 6 years, who's been sold as a profit other than Miggy and Bello? Got lucky as heck with PT. Wouldn't necessarily say it was luck. Plus, why do I care if the team sells at a profit? Boca's acquisition history is not that good, sans Tata. Okay. It's about development. You can look at Miles. You can look at Caleb Wiley. You can look at Noah Cobb as the things that have been working their way up through the pipeline. Remember that this is just, this is a 5-6 year old club that has been developing at the same time. And it's not like you're developing 35 players that are going to be starting in your starting 11. It's going to be that mix. And so you're getting those players from the back. And, don't be surprised if maybe Reyes or Garces are a part of the discussion too when it comes to teams that are interested in these players. But at center back that's where Atlanta United has been successful in their development. And it just so happens that you sold PT for one of the largest transfer fees outbound ever. You sold Miggy for one of the biggest transfer fees outbound ever. Bello was once again moved on to Arminia Bielefeld. Don't be surprised, like I said, the next couple of years. I know we were all looking at Miles as the next one, but I think that injuries and him not playing, I think that has almost put him to the side when it comes to thinking about who can be sold to Europe to play. Then you're looking, I think, once again, you're looking at Caleb Wiley coming up on board. You're looking at Noah Cobb. Those are the next ones that are going to be looked at, I think, where Atlanta United is concerned, and possibly folks in net. So it's still a developing process. So, 6 years, the fact that you've had the transactions that you've had, I think that speaks well when you're, I think, 3 of the top 5 transactions when it comes to highest source of revenue. So I think that it's still a work in progress, Michael. It's not something that happens all at once. And I know that we sit there and it's like, yes, 6 years, we've only had a couple, but still you've had more than others. You've had a lot more than others. So it's still a part of the build here for Atlanta United. Let's see. Okay, Colonel, we talked about the background chatter. Let's see. Curtin should have had a yellow. Extra time was 5. Oh, Michael, did anyone else feel like the fix was in for Liverpool? I know Newcastle was wasting time, but it seemed like the ref just let the match continue until Liverpool scored. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I don't know if the fix was in, but yeah, it does kind of introduce black helicopters to those kinds of things. What's a good save percentage? Sean Johnson, 81. So we'll go with that. So let's say somewhere in the low 80s. Of course, it also depends on shots on net. Let's see. Anyone know how much the fine is for a player coach calling out the refs? Interesting question, Bam. It probably depends. It's probably, probably starts in like, $1,000, $2,500, $5,000, stuff like that. And then the egregious nature. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the envelope is that's headed to Pat Noonan in Cincinnati and see what it's going to be like for him and see what his fine is. I don't know if that stuff is kind of openly disclosed, an undisclosed fine plus whatever. So it wouldn't surprise me if something like that. Sweeper keeper is nice systemically, but stopping shots is more important for me. Yeah, I know, Amelia, you'd like to have somebody in a perfect world that, and there are sweeper keepers that do both very well. Mr. Matrix, don't want to hear any more about selling players and making a profit until we start winning. I'm a fan of the team. I don't care about profit and loss statements. And Mr. Matrix, you are not alone. Uncle, I think we talked about Godinho. Does the club pay the fines? I think they do. And right, refs were bad last night, but they were not 3 goals difference bad. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the third goal, the fourth goal on the board was you're chasing. The third goal was once again Rocco coming out and clattering and coming out late. And then you had the slam dunk there. And then you had the second goal right before the half. So, yeah, we talked about 2 of the goals being with Rocco being not being able to stretch to his right and then coming out late for a challenge. Yeah, we did get into that kind of stuff as well. Before we go, let's get into your sources for the day. So, transfers. This is deadline day. I think we have until 4 o'clock. So we will look at the papers, I guess, and we'll see what we're looking at here when it comes to transfer news. Since this is deadline day, and this is accurate as of now. So here we go. All right, get your seatbelts going. Leeds is remaining tight-lipped. He says, Jesse Marsh says there's a lot going on. PSV Eindhoven's Cody Gakpo opted to remain in the Eredivisie. Others claim Marcel's Bamba Dieng is close to completing a deal for, they're saying 10 million, I think right now is what we're looking at, 10 million pounds for a Dieng to make it to Leeds. Jan Bednarek proposed move to West Ham looks off. The Southampton defender thought now to be moving to another club, report suggesting Aston Villa. Latest development could see Craig Dawson staying at West Ham instead of moving to Wolves. Latest with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Darmstadt Seth. Same position last deadline day, moving from Arsenal to Barca. Happening again, deal agreed in principle. Aubameyang to join Chelsea from Barca, paying around 10 million pounds, and including Marcus Alonso in the deal. Keep an eye on that. Also, Lille in talks with Everton over the signing of midfielder Andres Gomez, the 29-year-old Portugal international traveling to France to complete a deal with the League One side. Barcelona have terminated the contract of Martin Braithwaite, which was set to run through the summer of 2024, freeing him up to join Espanyol. Joined Barca from Leganés in 2020, 58 appearances, 10 goals in 2.5 seasons. So Martin Braithwaite moving on. West Ham have had a bid rejected for Torino right back Ola Aina. Offer was initially €4 million plus another additional £3.5 million in add-ons, so 3.5 and 3.5, looking at 7 million. 4 plus 4 in euro form. Former Chelsea players had loan spells at Hull City and Fulham in the past. Fulham winger Sylvester Jasper has joined Bristol Rovers League One on a season-long loan. Callum Robinson is in Cardiff doing a medical ahead of a move to West Ham. Manchester U23 Claudio Gomes set to join Palermo in a permanent deal. The 22-year-old joined City's ranks. PSG in 2018 has a year remaining on his deal. At the Etihad, defensive midfielder was on loan at Barnsley last season, 31 appearances for the Tykes. Bruges defender Jack Hendry close to joining Cremonese. Barnet have signed Kanu from Peterborough for an undisclosed fee. Guingamp in Ligue 2 and Greek club Wolos are in talks to sign Fulham forward Anthony Knockaert. The 30-year-old has just made 17 appearances across 4 seasons at Fulham. Celtic open to loan offers for James McCarthy. Stoke City to be interested there. Ruben Kazan midfielder Oliver Abildgaard is in Glasgow due to undergo a medical before his move to Celtic. Daniel Harvey is moving to MK Dons. Wolves remain in negotiations with Metz for Boubacar Traore. Talks have been going on for some time. Wolves hopeful for a deal today. Deal for West Ham's Craig Dawson getting closer. Leander Dendonker's medical at Aston Villa now underway. He could be moving there. Bournemouth completed the signing of defender Jack Stevens on a season-long loan from Southampton. 151 senior appearances, 6th signing of the summer window. And so that is what has gone on in the last hour. Douglas Luiz, the latest. It'll be a late one if it gets done. Mounting problems in the midfield, so Arteta looking for options, Douglas Luiz being one. Hector Bellerin, close to finalizing his free transfer to Barcelona. 27-year-old international mutually terminated his contract with Arsenal after a decade. Hull City signed Adama Traore back, so signed him on a free after he left Hatayspor after 2 seasons in Turkey. Leeds United's Radrizzani, chairman, called on supporters to welcome Bamba Dieng. So that should be working its way through. Newcastle undeterred. They're looking to add a new face or two today, according to Sky's Keith Downey, currently being frustrated in their attempts. Shrewsbury Town picks up forward Rob Street on a season-long loan from Crystal Palace. João Pedro reaffirmed his commitment to Watford after his proposed move to Newcastle collapsed, and Everton failed in their attempts to sign the Brazilian. Took to social media to say he's very happy there at Watford. Everton close to completing the £15 million signing of Manchester United midfielder James Garner. Willian and his representatives are at Fulham's training ground. Brazilians in the process of signing a contract with the club. Fulham boss Marco Silva has been impressed with what he's seen from Willian in training, sees him as someone who can add experience and quality to the squad. Villa not prepared to sell Douglas Luiz to Arsenal as things stand despite the Gunners' £20 million offer from earlier today. They're also, and there's your notes on the Wolves, Landard, and Donker as well. Everton pulled up on their pursuit of João Pedro. Leicester's attempts to sign Atalanta winger Jeremy Boga are stalling. Talks remain ongoing ahead of tonight's transfer deadline. Remember, Leicester can only use about a third of the funds that were brought in from the Wesley Fofana transfer on anything going outbound. Chelsea have agreed on the deal with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. It looks like $10 million with Marcus Alonso. Southampton in talks with Maxence Lacroix from Wolfsburg, according to Fabrizio Romano. Saints are keen to sign a center back target on deadline day. Marseille's Dush Kaleta Carr is another target with Jan Bednarek close to a move to West Ham. Also, Tottenham considering their options in the transfer market. A deal for Leeds United winger Daniel James looking unlikely. Maybe it's Monaco and Gelson Martins, the 27-year-old in Ligue 1. Also, let's see, going back another little bit. And then this is once again a day where follow your sources. Follow. Fabrizio Romano, Cesar Luis Merlo, Ben Jacobs, those folks. Those are the ones that you're looking for. Blue circle with a check mark. That's the ones that you hunt for when it comes to this particular day. Quickly, let's see. A lot of folks are once again going back and forth with one another. Thanks for doing all of that. Let's look at the papers. We will go into the papers and see what kind of paper talk we have and see if we have anything else on the market. Anthony's completed the £86 billion move for Anthony. Man City signed Dortmund defender Manuel Akanji from Borussia Dortmund for $15 million. Also, Fulham in talks with Leeds. We went through that one. Papers, Manchester United not giving up on the De Jong pursuit. Once again, we'll avoid the 3 and the 4-letter papers. Daily Express, somehow tempting Frankie de Jong, at least Manchester United hopes they can on deadline day after failed negotiations. Leeds pushing to sign Sheffield United defender John Egan amidst the injury crisis at Ellen Road. Yuri Tielemans has been the subject of a mystery offer, in quotation marks, 24 hours ahead of the deadline. Tottenham could sanction an exit for Lucas Moura on deadline day with Aston Villa waiting to pounce. Also, Telegraph. Tottenham will renew their interest in Dan James. We talked about that. Southampton up to be able to complete as many as 4 transfers. We mentioned Gakpo, Maitland-Niles, and Sam Edozie and Juan Larios all on their radar. Billy Gilmore's been told he's no longer a part of Thomas Tuchel's plans at Chelsea, bringing a move to Brighton closer and closer. Chelsea set for a frantic £140 million transfer deadline day, trying to seal deals for Aubameyang, Ajax's Edson Alvarez, RB Leipzig's Josko Gvardiol. Also, avoiding the 3-letter paper and the 4-letter paper takes us to the Times. Chelsea in talks with AC Milan over a move with Rafael Leao after being told PSG we're not ready to let Neymar leave despite his tensions with Kylian Mbappe. The £2.5 billion from the sale of Chelsea remains in Roman Abramovich's company's frozen bank account, with one MP claiming the Foreign Office has been, quote, hopelessly slow, end quote, in organizing distribution of the money. To help victims of the war in Ukraine. Premier League could break the $2 billion barrier for transfer spending after a summer that blitzed all records. Southampton have agreed to a fee of about £34 million for Cody Gakpo, but we'll keep an eye on that. West Ham missed out on signing Hans van Aken and almost certainly Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Everton have had talks to sign Samuel Chukwueze, the winger on loan from Villarreal. Athletic. Brentford ready to make a club record £26 million offer for Shakhtar Donetsk winger Mikhailo Mudryk, who had appeared to be on the verge of a move to Arsenal. And Liverpool midfielder Jordan Henderson, an injury doubt for the Merseyside derby against Everton. Girona confident of signing Oriol Romeu. Watford's Dapo Mebude on the verge of a permanent transfer to KV Oostende in Belgium. Evening Standard, Chelsea's hopes of adding Dinamo Moscow starlet Arsene Zakarian to their youth ranks look set to be thwarted by continuing sanctions on the Russian economy. Scottish papers, Nice hope to complete a £10 million deadline day move for Glenn Kamara. Ange Postecoglou revealed he's braced for transfer ins. And it looks like Christian Ramirez might be also leading Hearts from Aberdeen. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Duncan Ferguson, Big Dunk, one of the early frontrunners to take over from Jack Ross as Dundee United manager. All right, viewing habits today. Before we get into the weekend whip around tomorrow, where there's going to be a lot to talk about. All right. Whew, take your breath. Keep the seatbelt on for another couple of minutes. Russian Cup, Eastern Europe, Northern Africa, and dealing into the Baltics and North Africa, World Cup women activity. You've got all of that going through the Middle East, and Brasileiro taking you to 2 o'clock, lower divisions in South America. Serie A starts things off at 2:45. Atalanta, Torino. Atalanta's a minus 120. Bologna at home, a favorite against Salernitana at a plus 106. Leicester, Manchester United. We talked about that at 3 o'clock. Brasileiro, Argentina, Liga Profesional, Huracan in Central Cordoba. Huracan is a big favorite at 7 o'clock. Liga de Expansión, Liga MX is going on at 8. Atlético San Luis is a plus 102 at home against Club Tijuana, who's a plus 258. Primera A in Colombia with Atlético Nacional. Copa Sudamericana tonight. Atlético Goianiense against Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is a road favorite at a plus 137. Costa Rican Primera, Honduras Liga Nacional. Your late game in Liga MX, Querétaro and Puebla is at 10:05. And the Juice Box guys have just thrown a blanket over the whole thing, where both teams listed about the same, just north of plus 160, and your draw is a plus 234. Viewing habits. All right, what's to watch? What's to watch and where to watch it? Once again, you've got fntz.co/soccer down here for everything going on with the Fanatis. Jason got me addicted. I blame him. BN has the Copa Sudamericana at 8:30 with Goianiense and Sao Paulo. Premier League is on USA Network at 3 o'clock. Tuda NA has the doubleheader in Liga MX. ACC Extra has college men and women going on. B1G Plus has college women and college men. ESPN Plus, college men, college women, all day long. And the other action comes from the Eredivisie at 2 o'clock with AZ Alkmaar and NEC. Paramount Plus, Argentine Primera, Huracan and Central Cordoba at 7. Women's World Cup qualifier at noon, Denmark and Montenegro. And Serie A with the doubleheader with both of those matches going on at 2:45. SEC Plus has 6 matches in the college ranks for women. Now, once again, going back over what happened last night in Major League Soccer before we go, just to kind of set the table. We talked about where the standings are in the East, so let's go through one more time. Bam with the heads up. North Macedonia leading Latvia close to the half in the Women's World Cup qualifications, 2-1. So, Bam, it's close to 1 a.m. You close to your bedtime there, sir. Toronto and LAG a 2-2 draw to plus 289. Orlando City came back and were down early to the goal by Albert Rusnak, came back to beat Seattle 3-2 at a plus 123 after a long delay. Revs in Chicago, we know why Shooter was mad. Goalless draw to plus 311. Crew beat Inter Miami 1-0 to minus 119. Red Bulls beat CF Montreal, soon to be hopefully Impact, at a plus 317 on the road at Stade Saputo. DC United, huge win for them against NYC. We mentioned why NYC is struggling recently. Big win for DC United at a plus 472. Nashville chose offense again, beat Colorado on a Honey Mukhtar hat trick 4-1 at a minus 169. Houston 2-1. We talked about that one. at a plus 291. Big win for the Dynamo there. Timbers in a massively delayed game. So if you're looking at Timbers for Atlanta United, Timbers either got out of Austin late or didn't get out till this morning, winning 2-1, and RSL shuts out Minnesota by the score of 3-0 at a minus 122. So your standings in the West, since we talked about the East. LA's lost 3 in a row, and they are 18-3-7 at 57 points. 6 points now ahead of Austin, who could have been making up ground, but they've lost 2 of 3. They're at 51 points. Still another gap, 7 points to Minnesota United, and this is where the fun starts in the West. Minnesota United, 44 points. FC Dallas have played 29 matches. They're at 43. Nashville's played 29. They have 5 to go. They're at 42. They've won 3 in a row after choosing offense. 6th, RSL with their win. They're unbeaten in 4. They're at 42. They're behind on goal difference, +8 to +2. They've got some work to make up, but they also have a match in hand. Portland right now is the 7 at 9 wins, 12 draws, 8 losses, below 500, and they only have 5 matches to go. They are at 39 points, but they've won 2 in a row. Now here's the rest. LAG at 38, unbeaten in their last 4, 2 draws, 2 wins. Vancouver has some work to do. This is where your spacing is. Vancouver's at 34. Seattle's at 33. They've lost 4 of 5. Colorado has lost 3 of 5. They're at 32. Houston with the win gets to 29 ahead of Sporting on goal difference, -11 to -18. And San Jose is last at 27 points. So you've got a couple of groups here, the chase for 3rd and the chase for 7th right now. That's where it is in the West. Way past his bedtime, still working on the podcast prep. Bot from our friends at that particular one. So we will let folks know about that. And Emilio, all things being said, I think we can beat the Union at home just a hunch, not based on reality. I think they can too. I mean, you remember what happened when they got the 3-0 lead, and you saw how, and this is when Gabriel Heinze was in charge. You see how they worked the wings, and they were clinical, and that's the biggest thing. They worked the edges. They did last night. They just weren't clinical in finishing their chances, and you can't afford to do that against Philadelphia. So Emilio, right there with you. But I think that's going to be a rapid-fire show. Once again, remember, deadline day. It is deadline day, deadline day, deadline day. So follow your sources. It's all about the ones that have the blue check marks. Make sure that you're following check marks. Following check marks, following check marks, following check marks. And when it comes to your favorite clubs. So busy day. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to Bart. Then I guess, real quick, Soccer for Good OG. Stopped at a rest stop. So much to say so long ago. One thing, Moreno not being able to kick the ball with his left foot and losing the ball because he wanted the ball, wanted to switch it to his right. It's frustrating. Should be able to do something with his non-dominant foot. As a professional, bam, think the way for Atlanta to beat the Union to be first of the 50-50s and go hard. Let them know that you're there. That's a show, kids. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Jarrett. Thanks to y'all. And we will do it again tomorrow. Once again, it is the weekend whip around and 9. And so we're going to start early, 8:45 start. Remember, so we get everything done before Beyond Goals kicks in at 9:30. And we will go from there. Very, very busy show tomorrow as well. 8:45 start because of the weekend whip around. 9:30 is our check-in with Beyond Goals on the Friday Free Kick. So for everybody here, I'm just John. Enjoy your Thursday, folks. Enjoy deadline day. It is the end of the show, which means I do this.